So thank you for joining us. For us, it's really very exciting today because we are finally showing you what we have been working on for a while. It's a new feature that is called consumer tasting groups. If you are not familiar with who we are and what Cigar Sense does, just allow us to say a few words. Cigar Sense is an online advisory service. We serve consumers and providers of fine cigars. I am Franca Comparetto. I co-founded with David Wells Cigar Sense, and currently I am working on the operations of Cigar Sense, and I'm also a sensory panel leader. I love to continue studying how sensory science can help grow the premium cigar consumers and also the industry, because it's a whole ecosystem that grows together, right? And David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm David Wells. I'm a co-founder of Cigar Sense. I am an engineer, management consultant, lover of fine cigars, and I'm the technical leader. So I do all of the work on the digital product that is Cigar Sense.
Why consumer tasting groups? So in the first place, we want to also provide insights into what other consumers think of a cigar. So you are maybe used to share your tasting notes or your review, but it's maybe a little bit hard to see what others think of a cigar with the same structure that you have used to provide your opinion about the cigar. So basically, we want to enable you to understand how your perceptions compare to others. And we want to make it a learning experience for you. We actually are going to share with you a rather technical approach, but we want to help you increase the awareness of the benefits of using that structure and that language. We also want to foster critical thinking about others' opinions. We're not going to talk too much about the Cigars and Sensory panel. We do need to make a distinction between what we're going to look at today and what is actually the sensory trained panel of Cigar Sense. There are totally different purposes here. And definitely there are different results. And obviously we need to always consider the caveat of production consistency. We're dealing with an agricultural handmade product. There can be doubts when we test multiple samples of the same cigar. Let me just show you briefly what the key differences are between the consumer groups that we're going to show you and the trained sensory panel based on which we produce the core sensory profiles. What we mean by consumer tasting groups is embracing all sorts of people, from the beginners to the very experienced to the experts, that have something in common. They are not trained from a sensory point of view. Also, these people tend to talk a more effective language, meaning we tend to say that we like a cigar, that we don't like a cigar, and we may try to explain why, but we use a very, very different terminology from other consumers. Also, when we talk about consumer tasting groups, all inputs count. All consumers need to be listened to. It's not like we exclude outliers or whatever. When we talk about a trained sensory panel, everybody must be trained or being trained. We use a descriptive language. We try to avoid the judgment as much as we can. As a matter of fact, the ability to recognize biases is part of the training as well. And also statistics are applied differently in this case. Here we do need to exclude outliers, for instance. So if you have any questions at the end or any time, please ask, but I don't want to talk too much about the sensory panel. And I'm going to hand over to David, who will share the consumer tasting groups, how it works.
Okay, thanks, Franca. Yeah, I'm gonna give me 1 second to get my demo. Okay, again, thanks everybody for joining. We really appreciate your interest in this topic. I'm gonna just walk you through how it works. If you are a Cigar Sense member, if you're a free member, And this is probably what you see when you log in. This is your kind of homepage for members. And you'll notice we've actually just put a banner up here about the consumer tasting groups as we're rolling this out. We want everybody to be aware of it. And you can certainly follow any of the links here to go to the post that describes this whole process in a little bit more detail. I'm going to actually take you straight to the page where you see the consumer tasting groups. So these groups, as Franca pointed out, this is a very fluid thing. We can set these groups up really at any request. They're different. They're your opportunity to record what you thought of a cigar as you were smoking it, what you experienced while you were smoking it. You may already be familiar with user tasting notes feature that a lot of our members are using to keep track of what they smoke. This is different, though. Again, the purpose here isn't just to keep track of what you smoked. The purpose here really is to create this learning opportunity. If you're keen to understand how your perceptions differ from other consumers, if you're keen to understand if you have trouble in certain areas, being able to differentiate certain aromas, being able to correctly name certain flavors or sensations in the tongue. I've set up a demo group just to kind of show you how this works. These are a few groups that we've set up for particular cigars. We can set up basically a group for any cigar. One of the differences between our user tasting notes and this is the tasting notes really have to be a cigar that's in our database. This doesn't. So if anybody wants us to set up a tasting group, whether it's for your club or it's for a cigar that's not on our list yet, just reach out to me and I can do that for you quickly. If you want to participate in one of these groups, then you just choose the group and you click the join button. I'm going to demonstrate it with this Cigar Sense demo group. This is just dummy data that's going to go away after this call. And I'll just show you, just click on the join button. And now you see the page where you can actually record what you experienced as you smoke the cigar. So the idea is that you would actually do this online, either on your PC or your tablet or your phone, while you're actually smoking the cigar. And as Franca mentioned, this is different from our user tasting notes. It's also different from what our panelists do. It's kind of a balance in between the two. But user tasting notes are fairly high level. They're not super detailed and precise. This is a little more detailed, a little more precise. If you're familiar with our aromas wheel, this relies on this most detailed outer band, what we call level 2 aromas, is what you'll be recording here. When you come into one of these groups, you join the group, then basically we're looking to make sure you're smoking that cigar. Don't enter perceptions for a different cigar, of course. It goes without saying. You're going to basically record the aromas you experience. You have an opportunity to record 6 of them. Your reaction to it, did you like it or did you dislike it? And how intense you found that aroma to be. That's a scale of 0 to 9. But don't let the scale intimidate you.
I wanted to add that the aromas that we are talking about in this form are the lead aromas in retrohale. We don't have actually here the division in hypothetical tertios that you might refer to when you smoke, taste a cigar. You might want to go back to aroma 1 when you are in the middle of the cigar or maybe towards the end to readjust the overall intensity that you believe overall you have perceived in a cigar. So we just have that set of aroma descriptions. That's for the lead cigar in retrohale. On the intensity, what I would like to add is, of course, we can't calibrate with these groups like we do with the sensory trained panel, but you can maybe try to think about, 0 is obviously representing absence of the particular perception. 9 is the highest that you have experienced in a cigar. And then based on that, you can nuance it across the scale. Is that clear?
Yes, of course.
Okay, we have been talking all the time so far, so just chime in as you see fit.
Thank you, Franca. So I'm just going to continue. I'm basically going to simulate as if I were smoking the guitar, the cigar. So you see here the same data that's on our aromas wheel. This is the breakdown with the level 1 aroma and level 2 aromas. And again, as I mentioned, you have the opportunity to record 6 aromas that you detect. So you may end up, If you notice more than 6, you may have to choose which 6. So I might go with, cedar. I see cedar pretty often in cigars and call that a medium. I'm just going to fill out a few of these so that I can show you how the process goes. Stable's pretty common in a lot of the cigars that I smoke. Pretty often get some toasted like cocoa, which I like hot. Call that medium. Let's see, what cigar am I smoking? How about some almond? Let's add some almond in there. Give that a milder hint to it. Maybe a little pastry. And that's enough, actually. Yeah, so the form is basically going to require you to name at least 3 aromas. You can name up to 6 as you like. Incidentally, you also, if there's something that's not on our list, you can actually add it here in the free-form aroma field. And that happens from time to time. This is actually an interesting opportunity for you to feedback to us, something that we can give consideration to. So I'm just going to add dirty socks aroma. Say, no, I didn't like that. I'd say that was about a 5. So you definitely, whenever you give an aroma, you have to give your reaction, you have to give the intensity. And next, we move on to the tastes and the mouth feels, the tactile perceptions. So this is the entire list. This is a little bit different because the aroma list is so long. We gave you 6. Here we're going to ask you for each of the tastes and tactile perceptions that we have in our standard taxonomy for describing a cigar. So did you find it savory? Yes, I found it savory. I liked it. Did you find it spicy? Sure, I like a little spice. It was a little sweet, and I liked, I missed it. A little sweet, and I liked that. Didn't really find it creamy. Did find it a little bit dry, and I disliked that. Found it a little bit bitter, and I disliked that. Didn't really find it salty. Didn't really find it sour. Didn't really find it cooling. So those are all the tastes and mouthfeels. Now there's a few more observations we'll ask you for. You can do an additional taste or mouthfeel. Again, if there's something that's not in our taxonomy that you think is missing, you can add it here. Like I might say itchy. I'm sorry, I'm trying to come up with a sensation that's not in our taxonomy. We do ask about your read of the nicotine strength using the same typical 5-point scale we always use. And then we'll ask you about the character of the cigar. So how would you rate? This is really kind of you could think of your emotional response to the cigar. How did you find the character of the cigar? Was it bland? Was it monotonous? Was it on the other end of the spectrum, positively ethereal? Well, lively. I'll just say lively for this one. Yes, I enjoyed this cigar, and would I buy it again? I don't know. And I'm just going to say this is a demo. You can put whatever further feedback you like to into this. And then once you submit your information that you've captured, you'll get this confirmation, and it tells you the page you can go to see the results of this tasting group. And very importantly, please note this, it tells you what your entry number is. We decided in the end to actually anonymize the results, and you'll see this when we go to the results page, that we don't put people's names or email address or logins.
Okay.
So you want to remember your entry number so that you can tell when you see the results charts which one is yours. And that's going to be helpful to you on the next page that we'll go to. Let's go take a look at the results, and I'll explain to you how we actually go about analyzing the data. We present this for everyone who's participating can see the results. First of all, let me say a few caveats. The results won't be visible for any given tasting group until 2 things happen. We need a minimum number of submissions before it's worth looking at the results, or before it means anything to look at them. And also, every group has an end date. You might have noticed when we were looking at the list, and I can show that to you again. And so we don't show the results until the end date rolls around. So if you want to do one of these groups, as we said before, you can reach out to me. I'll set it up for you. And you decide, when do we want to do it? Do we want to have an event with your club, for instance, or at your lounge if you're doing a HERF? and we just decide what date is going to be associated with that. When you see the results, this is what we start out with. We're looking at the alignment of each individual with the group as a whole. And the way that we do that is we measure aromas, tastes, and strength. We measure how far each individual deviated from the average of the group overall. And so you can see, basically, this is kind of like a golf score, if you think of it that way. The lower your score is, the better your performance is. The more closely you as an individual predicted what the whole group would say about that cigar. So I'm going to drill into this a little bit more, and we're going to see what the actual results look like in this section down below. In the first tab, we see the aroma observations, and what you have here is a radar chart. Some people might call this a spider chart. And we're really looking at two things. We're looking at the group average intensity for each one of these aromas. Around this chart, you see every aroma that was reported by anyone who is participating in the exercise. And you see in the blue the average intensity of the group. And you see in orange the maximum intensity. And so by looking at this chart, one of the things you immediately see visually is just how variable the group's observations were. There's quite a lot of variation between, so somebody said oak at 7, but the group's average on oak was only 2.6. So that's really part of the purpose, to understand everyone's perceptions are different. This is a way for us to understand at an individual level how different are mine from the group overall. And if you scroll a little bit further down, then you see the list of entries. And like I said, we've anonymized it, so you don't see people's names or logins or email addresses. But you can drill into your own entry by clicking on the entry number. That's why it's important for you to take note of that. And what you'll see is really a kind of an explosion of your own results, individual, compared to the group consensus. So aroma by aroma, what we see here is every aroma that either the group has reported or that you have reported, and you see the comparison. So for instance, we see that the group consensus is a low level of, or mild level of leather aroma, but I didn't report any leather, so that's completely absent for me. The group did note stable. I noted stable a little more strongly. A couple of earth aromas that the group noted, peat and undergrowth, I didn't note those at all. Hay also, the group actually was pretty strong on hay. I didn't report hay at all. So part of the purpose of showing you this is so that you can get some feedback to see, are there things that I'm just missing? Are there things that other people are seeing or sensing in this cigar I'm just missing altogether? But conversely, you may see things that you're really sensitive to that the group is much less sensitive to. So cedar, for instance, I reported as 6. The group consensus on cedar is 2.7. So you can see there, I have in cocoa also I reported at 6, whereas the group reported just a touch of cocoa in this. So this is really your way to get kind of detailed feedback on your aroma perceptions as compared to the rest of the group. And that's really part of what we wanted to give you as part of the learning experience. If you are interested in improving your ability to do tastings. So this is the aromas tab that you'll see on the results page. There's the same thing for the taste and feel tab. So again, you can see in the blue area, the group's consensus, the average intensity for each one of these sensations. And in orange, you see the maximum. So creamy, for instance, you can see that there's a big outlier here. The group's consensus was 1.4. Somebody reported a maximum of 6 on creamy. So that's a good, again, this is really illustrating to you the variability of perceptions from individual to individual. And once again, you can pull up the same kind of detailed chart on taste. If I look at my dummy entry that I just made and noted nothing in cooling or creamy, whereas the group finds those, maybe I need to do a little research to get a little training to better understand, what is the sensation of creaminess in a cigar. Whenever I think of these sensations that seem maybe to the beginner cigar smoker, they seem kind of obtuse. It reminds me of wine. When I first started drinking wine, I was always puzzled when people would describe a Chardonnay as buttery. It took me a while to understand, what is that sensation that people refer to as butteriness in a Chardonnay. We have a similar kind of phenomenon with cigars as well. I see kind of salty. I didn't note any saltiness, but the group definitely sees saltiness. Everybody's pretty closely aligned on the savory. So again, the whole purpose of this is to let you see at a fairly detailed level, for every aroma, for every taste, are there things that you're perceiving differently? Things maybe you're not perceiving at all that you might be able to train yourself to perceive better, or things that you're very, very sensitive to. Maybe your scale is a little bit out of whack with the average consumer that participates. We've looked at aromas, we looked at taste. There's some other observations here, the strength observation as well. And again, we see a pretty strong variability here from medium to strong. That's a pretty big difference. A couple of steps on our scale. And then just the random other observations that people noted. Finally, the last tab here is the leaderboard. And as I mentioned, this is like golf. So the lowest score is the score that wins. And this will essentially get frozen on the end date of each tasting group. And if there's a contest involved, sometimes, and I think Franco will talk more about this in a moment. Now, you can still go into a group, and I'm just going to go back to that screen. Let me point out to you that this is on everybody's menu now. So under the members menu, you can see the link to this consumer tastings page. And again, this is showing you all the tastings that are open right now. You can definitely enter a tasting. You can join a group even if the end date has passed. The primary consequence of that is just if there was a contest associated with that group, then you won't be eligible for the contest. So that's really everything I wanted to demo. Let me just pause and ask for questions.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I understand what has David explained, but how is the timeline? Next week till 15th of November, I have to fill in my opinions, my tastes, my result of the tasting in the forms. Or what does it mean?
Yeah, that's essentially it, Baron. You can join right now. This group is open. It's available to you right now. If you have that cigar and you'd like to participate, just come to this page and click the join button whenever you're ready to sit down and smoke that cigar. Again, the end date means this is when the contest associated with that will close.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
I will show one other thing so that you're not puzzled by this. If the contest is still open, we haven't closed it yet, and you try to see the results, you'll see a message like this saying that this is not ready yet for people to see the results. And actually encouraging you to ask your friends to come. Again, two things have to happen for you to see the results, the kind of page I showed you with our demo. One is we have to have a minimum number of people submitting their tastings. And two, we have to pass the end date so that we can see the results. So you can go anytime now, click the join button, submit your results, come back on November 15th, and you'll be able to see the results.
Are there any other questions?
Well, good evening, everyone. Oh, I can enter in any of the cigars. You want someone to smoke it, I'll smoke it. You know it. It's for me. It's you tell me you want to smoke. You need to smoke this one. I'll smoke it. It's fine for me. It's very interesting. I mean, the data you collect. It's super interesting as a background. I mean, people probably don't know from the guests don't know here, but I'm actually working in the retail. I'm managing at the moment one shop, but in a few months probably will be more shops.
I just wanted to ask Ray, do you have lounges? Do you have a place where people actually sit and smoke?
Yes.
So, if your customers tend to be a little competitive, maybe we want to set up a group for one of your lounges and let them duke it out.
Yeah, that can be interesting. I mean, it's a small lounge, it's not a big lounge, and yeah, I can think of something like that where because I do a lot of events, so every single week I do a pairing event where I pair a cigar with a specific pairing as a whiskey, alcohol, rum, or whatever, and they all smoke the same cigar. So maybe one day, I know it's not going to be completely 100% compatible in the group, because we're not going to drink only water and everything like that, like you prefer to do it. When
Well,
you
it's
compare it with
not a
something else.
technical tasting, it's a consumer tasting.
Yeah, so maybe I can think of something like that.
It's more intended to allow people to smoke in the same environment and situation in which they would smoke themselves when they are, when they decide to smoke. So there are no rigid rules for these on, how you should behave and how far from meals you should smoke, etc. So it's just much more leisure. Just because, it's consumers can be more experts than anybody else, but we call them naive tasters because they are not trained, okay? And we don't expect them to be trained.
You can still use the data. You can think of maybe my palate need to be trained a little bit more, maybe start researching how you can train your palate, or maybe choose a similar cigar with a similar profile, smoke it, and see how again you compare with the main scores, the main panel, which means smoke the cigar and give the scores. It's a super interesting to train your palate. I mean, this website, I told you many times, helped me a lot training my palate. Even if I think I have a good palate, sometimes I'm off. Obviously, I smoke something and I put it in the list there, and it's not matching much. And I was like, especially in the beginning, back in the time, it was super interesting for me. I looked some cigars, and the recommendation as well on the cigars is really nice. You can see what should I smoke next. That's really nice part of the website, where recommending like 95% matching to these 5 cigars or these 10 cigars. Then you can go to the humidor, local humidor, whatever, or online, and say, okay, can I order this one now because they are the closest match to my personal profile? And you can continue smoking them, adding more. The more you add, the more different varieties and options will be.
Thank you very much.
Ray, you just excuse me, Frank, I wanted to make one comment because Ray just triggered a thought. One thing I think I failed to mention during the demo. We did talk a little bit about how these consumer tastings are different from user tasting notes. So people who've been using Cigar Sense for a long time probably have created a lot of user tasting notes. Those play a really key role in the way that our system works. The user tasting note is how you give feedback to the recommendation engine, and it improves the recommendations. These are two different things, but they're linked in this way. If you submit one of these consumer tastings, it will actually automatically generate a user tasting note for you for that cigar. So the data is not lost; it gets reused in that way. If you haven't already created one, so it's a more precise. This consumer tasting is a way more precise data, less verbose data, more kind of technical, quantitative data, but we can't translate them into the user tasting notes. So don't be surprised if you join some consumer tasting groups and you find the next time you're on your home screen, you see some new tasting notes entry.
Please just, raise your hand if you're not following what we're saying. We're trying to make a distinction, trying to explain that what you enter as part of the consumer tasting groups somehow gets fed and is taken into account when we recommend new cigars to you, but not directly, you see, because this is kind of a separated exercise. And also the outcome of that is you might notice that the more people you will have participating in your group, the more variety there will be in the perceptions, and it's going to be hard to consider that profile reliable. But there's going to be some alignment at a certain point, and that's how we determine the leader. And that leads us to talk also about these contests that we are that we want to explain to you today. But I'm just going to pause a moment to ask you, is anybody confused with what we're trying to do with the consumer tasting groups and what we are doing in terms of sensory profiles and recommendation engine, etc.?
Hi all, this is Joyce. I'm not confused at all.
Okay.
this is my first. This will actually be my first in this capacity, consumer tasting. So I was interested in exactly what you're saying, what you guys were saying. I've done the cigar sommelier course. I've become certified in that. If somebody asks, again, we're just a leisure group, so sometimes people will come and just say, "Well, is that a good cigar? Are you smoking it?" And then you get people going, "Yeah, yes or no." So I'm actually interested in doing my own profile, but I need to see how this goes first. Doing my own group or tasting group, like was suggested.
Thank you very much, Joyce. It's great that you're going to use it, and please ask us anytime if you need any help, if you still have questions. And when you talk about cigar profiles, depending on the use you want to make of a cigar profile, you might want to look at the profiles that we publish as part of our Cigars and Service of recommendations, because that's what you could consider as more reliable if you want to look at a profile, a core profile of a cigar, and then take some decisions or advise anybody based on that. I just wanted, sorry if I repeat this, but I know that it's something that we are not used to when we talk about differentiating, consumer opinions, even if they're aggregated together. It is good. It is interesting to see how everybody thinks about a cigar and foster the discussion. But that's the exercise, okay? And then we can see some structured opinions in a structured way. That's fine. If you want to do something more, please have a look at the profiles that we publish that are created based on our trained sensory panel, because that information is definitely more reliable for further use.
Sure, thank you so much.
All right, so if there are no particular other questions, I'm going to share again just one slide. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Good, okay. So today we wanted to also invite you to take part into contests. So the demo data that David showed you is just dummy data, so it will go away. There's going to be those 3 other cigars that we have created a group for. And you have time, as Bernd was saying, you have time until the 15th of November to invite your friends and submit your tastings by then. Obviously, smoking all the same Vitola, so it's better if we say Toro that you smoke the Toro and not the Robusto or something else, even if it's within the same line. It's better. So at least we try to compare apples with apples. So invite friends. Why is that important? Because if there's only 3 who taste, it doesn't make sense to show the results. It's not interesting at all. It doesn't make sense. It's better if there's a bigger group of people who smoke the same cigar, and then we can see the results from that group. As a matter of fact, we need to have at least 9 tastings for one cigar. That's really the bare minimum that still allows us to show you some results. You can always, anytime outside of this contest, ask us to set up your own group. If you want to taste with your friends another cigar, please ask us. We'll set it up for you. You'll tell us what the end date should be and we'll do it. But for this contest, we're talking about those 3 cigars that you see listed on the page that David was showing. The person who will be on top of the leaderboard will be the person who is the most aligned with the rest of that group, not with the core profile that is the most reliable, but it's going to be aligned to the rest of that consumer group. So basically, you could say she or he is the person who can best predict the results from that particular consumer tasting group. So what are you going to be eligible to win? It's a 3-month complimentary access to a cigar tasting course, which is our science-backed course. it is today $297 if you want to enroll into the course and pay for it. So you win a 3 months access, and people normally go through it much faster than in 3 months. It's not a very, very heavy or long course, but it does explain to you a lot of things that really will make you feel much more comfortable. Even if you are a sommelier already, it will give you some solid notions about tasting also from a scientific perspective. It's something that has been followed by sales teams of cigar companies, distributors, and discerning consumers. And they gave us very good feedback.
Hello.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me. Sorry, it's just been trying to multitask around here. I am more of a consumer than anything else, and I stumbled upon your website a couple of months ago when I was seeking to do something. I've been smoking for a while, and I always make the joke that it took me about 2.5 years to be able to understand some of what I'm smoking. However, I'm gonna be honest, I watch reviews and I see people talk about things, and I'm like, you can't have all those blends within the first 2 puffs of a stick. I feel like it's a lie. Let me put it that way, literally, unless they've made some notes on the side. And so I want to improve my palate. I want to improve my ability to make the most out of what I'm smoking. And so I even enrolled in the Cigar Sommelier course. I was in Dortmund recently for that. Unfortunately, because of the course, I couldn't attend your class, your sessions that you held. So, which was very unfortunate. But obviously, I'm looking forward to that. So I really want to be a part of this. I really want to improve what I'm doing. And I have a few people around me who really like cigars, but don't know much about it. So I've been trying to explain. But imagine being a teacher who doesn't know anything, right? So I want to be better and be in a position where I can explain a bit more. So once the email came through, I saved the date, and I keep on working with the timelines because I'm currently in Afghanistan, and we have this half hour ahead, so it's always very confusing. So I had to check the time 3 times, set up the alarm, and manage to get through. So I just want to say I'm very grateful. I've signed up and have an account with Cigar Sense, and initially I was amazed at the number of cigars based on the how do you call it, my smoking preferences charts that I created, and I got like 90 recommendations already. What I find funny and interesting is that I'd smoked a quarter of that list, and it's just exactly what I wanted, if that makes sense. So I see this as an opportunity to keep learning and improving, and I'm very grateful to you guys for this.
Oh, thank you so much. We're grateful to the people like you. We are honored to serve people like you, so thank you. And we will also actually make on demand even a more elaborated version of the conference on consumer preferences that we delivered in Dortmund. So, and thank you also for your interest in that. Excited to help you set up your groups and answering any questions you might have further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks.
We don't have more content to show you. So, we can stay here for questions, or we want to give back some of your Sunday time. It's up to you.
I just want to say thanks everyone for joining and for your interest. Please let me know if you would like to see another tasting group set up for a particular cigar, and I'll be happy to set that up for you.
Thank you again, and wish you a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.